Welcome back to another episode of the Keisha Show. Listen to Key. Thank y'all so much for rocking with me for another week. It's me, your girl, Keidra, your host. Thank y'all again. I told you guys that this is the highlight of my week, and I love talking to you guys about everything that's going on in pop culture and news. I took last week off, mental health. Y'all know how that goes, especially in this cold weather. I'm in New York. I don't know where y'all are listening from, but here in New York it's freezing. The weather is crazy, and that winter depression definitely set in. But we are soldiers in the army of the Lord over here. So this week I was like, you know what? I need to talk to my people. That always brings my spirits up. I am going to get out of this bed and come and chat with y'all as we do in Kiki. Take a deep breath. You know, let's start this show off with deep breaths. Exhale. One more. Inhale. One more. Exhale. I just feel like a deep breath just kind of gives me a woosah and gets me ready and gives me that burst of energy that we need. Y'all, so much has happened since I was off last week. One thing that happened, mea culpa. Child, Tyler Perry done dropped this film with the beautiful Kelly Rowland, starring our girl Kelly and Trevante Rhodes. We know him from, where do we know Trevante from? Moonlight. Y'all remember Moonlight? And Bird Box. Yes. Trevante is fine. And I did not think it was possible, but Tyler Perry made him not fine in this movie, y'all. Mea culpa was a disaster. We watched the movie for Kelly. Let it be clear, we watched the movie for Kelly. That was it. That was the only reason we watched this movie. Tyler Perry's writing on this movie, his directing on this movie, it just wasn't good. I think that when I was younger and Tyler Perry came on the scene and I was getting my hair done and I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and they would come into the shop and they would have the bootlegs of his plays and we will all get excited and we will watch the bootlegs of his plays in the hair salon. I think that's where my nostalgia for Tyler Perry comes from. But when we really sit back and think about it, Tyler Perry does not mean well for Black women. Throughout all, and I know y'all have heard this argument before, but it's so true. And I wish somebody could tell me it's not. Because in every single film, Temptation, the man was showing no interest in his wife. Tyler Perry film Temptation, about a woman who meets a man who's married and her husband's not paying her any attention. He doesn't remember her birthday. He is just very lackluster for her. He basically acts like he doesn't care about her. He doesn't love her. So she falls into the hands of this handsome stranger child. He's taking her here, there, and beyond. He's rich. He has money. And then they sleep together and she ends up catching HIV. And then she wants to get back with the husband and he's like, yeah, no, ill. And then he ends up remarrying and now she's stuck working at a pharmacy with HIV. Like, he just never can give us, even if you look at his other movies, that was like one of the worst ones I could think of. But even if you look at his other movies, what was the one Taraji was in? Alchemy? Was that what it was called? The same thing. Like, he can never put us in a film where Black women are successful and thriving and just don't have problems with men. It's just, I just want to know, I mean, I guess he's telling us, but this is how he sees us. And it's extremely concerning. So in Mea Culpa, essentially Kelly Rowland is playing an attorney. Same plot as the rest of them. Her husband is doing her dirty. You know, child, he don't got no money. He broke. He's trying to do well by her, but her mom is sick. His mom is sick, rather. She's very mean to Kelly's character, who was Mia Harper. Very mean to her. The brother mean to her. The mother bringing around another girl for him to philander around with. It's just a hot ghetto mess. Kelly starts representing Trevante and his fine behind, and he seduces her. But did he really seduce her? It was just so corny. Like, to be seduced, the art of seduction. When Trevante, and his name in the movie was Zaire, was not giving seduction. He was looking at Kelly like, I know you find me attractive. Baby, it's giving you play for the other team. If you really want to get down to it. And I'm not going to lie. So essentially, she meets this troubled client of hers who's in trouble for allegedly killing his girlfriend. Kelly is defending him. And I'm going to give the spoiler. It comes out that he didn't kill her. It was a setup from her husband's family, from Kelly's husband's family, whatever. They set this man up to make it look like he killed his girlfriend. The seduction, the scene where Kelly fell into this man's arms and they ended up becoming intimate, it was very just not believable for me. And I'm going to be honest, I fast forwarded through that scene. Once I saw the scene where it happens after the back and forth, and y'all have seen this type of movie so many times, the back and forth where he's all breathing his breath on her, getting all close to her, and she getting all hot and bothered or whatever. All of that in his attempt to seduce her. I guess it works, child. He got a lady giving him fellatio. Kelly sees this. I guess she gets all hot and bothered, leaves, thinks that her husband is doing something. She comes back and gets hooked up with him, and they start doing whatever they're doing. I had to stop watching at that point. And then I just fast forwarded to see what was going to happen next, because it was just something about her being so easily seduced. And I feel like that's what Tyler Perry is, a reoccurring theme in his movies, that women can't be trusted. They're easily seduced when they see an attractive man, whoever Tyler Perry deems as attractive. I'm saying they, like, I'm not a woman, a black woman. That we're just so easily seduced by a man, and all he has to do is breathe his hot breath on us and have some abs, and we're just like, oh my gosh, I can't even control myself. And it's like, it's just so corny and overdone, and it's not entertaining. And I think that his movies were, like, entertaining to me. I wasn't as cute when I was younger and I didn't know any better. But now that I'm older, it's just, like, embarrassing at this point, and I don't want to say it, but he's literally slowly becoming one of the worst directors ever. And that's just what it is. I appreciate him for his success. I admire his success because I know he came from very humble beginnings and he really built himself up. But the way that he chooses to portray black women and especially in Black History Month, you're gonna debut that bull during Black History Month? Like, you really have some audacity. Like, you could not have thought that the ancestors were going to look out for you after you debut that during Black History Month. That's out of control. You could have said that you should debut this in the summertime. We were all outside and nobody was going to watch anyway. So yeah, it was a bust. But Kelly looks beautiful, obviously. We watched the movie for Kelly. We support Kelly. And that's it. Oh, and you know who else we support? Ron Rieko Lee. I never knew his name. Y'all remember him? He was Tyreek from Sister Sister. We support him. Love that brother. And we should support Shannon Thornton, who plays Charlize, my girl right here, who we know from P-Valley. My girl gonna play a battered woman, child. Please do not typecast my girl as playing a battered woman. She is so beautiful. Like, I just want her to play other roles. I really love her as an actor, though. My girl is just, the camera just eats up her face. She is just a vision. Her and Kelly on this film, that was the best part of the film. Seeing these two chocolate beauties, that's it. Because everything else was disappointment. Y'all, my heart was broke. It still broke. The Wendy Williams documentary, my heart is broken. For all y'all who don't know, I love Wendy Williams. I have followed her career since she's been on TV, because I think I was kind of young when she was on radio, so I wasn't following her then. But I have a love for her. I have a respect for her in this industry and everything she's contributed. Yes, she's messy. Would never have said she's not. But what she's contributed, what she's done as a black woman in media on daytime TV for 12 years, the girls are shaking. I don't know that anyone else has really done that. since Oprah. I remember when I went to the Black History Museum in DC, and they had like a little section that was just her. I wonder if she's seen it. She's had to have seen her exhibit. It was just so cool just to see what she's come from. But this documentary is very sad, and it very much gives, it just gives what could happen if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't have your paperwork in order. It was just so devastating to watch. So essentially, for y'all who don't know, Wendy suffers from Graves' disease, thyroid disease, and she also has lymphedema in her legs. That's when you see people and their legs are really big and swollen, or limbs. She suffers with that. And then it was also just revealed that she has dementia, the same type of dementia that Bruce Willis has, which is it comes on, I guess, for folks, it's like an early onset type of dementia. But then there have also been speculation that it's linked to her drinking, which can also lead to dementia. And Wendy wants to get back on TV throughout this documentary. They filmed this documentary because it was supposed to be something that came out before she started her podcast. Do y'all remember? It's been 2 years since she's been off the air. But do you guys remember when she went off the air and then there was speculation of her starting a podcast? Well, this documentary was supposed to promote that. But then once the producers got in there and they saw the state that she was in, they were like, wow, this is going to be something else. It's very interesting because when it comes to guardianship, so essentially we know that I don't remember if she got a formal divorce from her husband, but we know that her husband was cheating on her for years, has a mistress, bought her a house. We saw this, now had a baby with her, has a whole new family essentially. We saw this in the last documentary. But now it looks like all of that is catching up to her. She's in the documentary wearing his old robe. She's drinking a lot. They're finding her in the bed with a bottle of vodka. She's just, you could look at her and see that she's out of it. She's not there. It's like, knock, knock, nobody's home at some moments. At some moments, she is the same Wendy that we know, but in other moments, she's just not. And when it comes to the guardianship, so essentially, something happened to trigger guardianship. The only reason I know anything about this is because I literally went this exact same situation maybe about back in like 2016 now. My grandfather had dementia. It had been coming on for about 10 years. He was in his 80s though. Wendy's only 59. Very, very young. Way too young to be experiencing this. But people were stealing money from him, you know, on our scale, and it triggered the bank. So people were stealing hundreds of dollars from his account. People would say, oh, hey, let's go to Walmart. And next thing you know, he's buying $800, $1,000 worth of merchandise from Walmart, going to the casino, just spending a lot of money. And the bank flagged it. It was flagged. The bank caught hold of it. They know his age, reached out to social services. Social services reached out to me. The reason they reached out to me and not his son, that's a lie. Well, they reached out to him too. But I ended up ultimately becoming guardian because my grandfather had me down as an emergency contact. Once they saw and I had already taken kind of responsibility for him. He was like I didn't realize how bad he was. I knew he was forgetful, obviously, but I don't live in the same city as him. I live in the same state, but in the same city. I saw that he was having issues, but I didn't realize how severe they were. So I would make all his doctor's appointments, and then when I would go home for the holidays, I would make his doctor's appointments around the time that I was coming home. So I would pick him up and take him to his doctor's appointments. So after years and years and years of doing that, he was like, all right, I'm going to put you down as an emergency contact. And after some time, once his dementia got really bad and his account was flagged for excessive spending, social services from the state called me and said, hey, your grandfather is excessive spending. This is going to look really bad when he applies for Medicaid. I'm lying. He wasn't in his 80s at the time. He must have been like in his 70s. It's going to look really bad when he goes to apply for Medicaid because, you know, once you apply for Medicare, because that's what like takes care of your nursing home if you need it and all those type of things for seniors. apparently if you are taking out a lot of money, it looks like you're hoarding funds. So if you do have to go to a nursing home, or if you do need some care from or you want the state to pay for it, they're going to say, hey, but what about this $10,000, $15,000 you had? You saying you don't have any money, you need support from us. So she was like, listen, you got to get this under control. Either you're going to become his guardian, because his son, child, my family issues, so he doesn't want to have anything to do with it, or him. They live in the same city, whatever. I don't get involved in parent-children drama. All I know that was my grandfather. He was good to me. I was going to look out for him. Long story short, I became his guardian. It was a very long process. You have to take a test. You have to go through classes. Not like a railroad test, but they make you watch these classes. You have to go through court. You have to put your name on the line that you're going to be responsible for everything. And I was his healthcare proxy and his guardian, and I was responsible for all his finances. That man had way more money than I did. So it's funny because a lot of people, that's how you know I don't come from money, because he had money, not me, but I would be afraid to even buy a Kit Kat for him. Like, because everything has to be documented and accounted for with guardianship, because you have to do a report. When you first start, it's like 6 months, and then after that, it's every year of how much you're spending and what are you spending it on, and you have to show those receipts. And they look at every single dollar and tally it up. I think the reason that Wendy did not, so essentially the state appointed me to be my grandfather's guardian, but for Wendy, the state appointed a guardian for her. I think based on the experiences I went through, the reason they appointed somebody from the state was because her son was too young. They're obviously not going to give it to her ex-husband. And her son, there was excessive spending that was on the son's hands. Now, putting things in perspective, Wendy, if you watch the Wendy Williams show, she is obsessed with her son. She does not play about that boy. And she even says it, I work hard for my son. Everything that I have is going to be for him. So I don't think she mind spending a lot of money on him. But when the bank and when these white people see that you're spending $100,000 on a jet, and somehow they knew it was the son spending that money, they were like, oh yeah, no, he's taking advantage. But I think in reality, yeah, was Wendy out of it? Absolutely. But I do think that she was very proud of her son. He was in college. He felt like he had a good head on his shoulders. It kind of seemed like she would have gave him whatever he wanted anyway. But to the banks, it looks like he was probably stealing and taking advantage of her. I don't know why the sister was not given guardianship. She has a sister. She has a brother. Her father is elderly, so that makes sense. I don't know why they weren't. There was a niece. I don't know why they weren't given guardianship. I do know that it's something that you have to actively seek out. Like, I made it clear to the judge, hey, I want to be this person. I made it clear to the social services person, I want to be this person. I was following up. I was consistent. I was doing things for him before I was even the guardian. It's one weird scene where it's funny on the documentary. So Wendy's at home. The niece comes, her sister's daughter, and she's talking to Wendy, and she's like, you have to, because at this point, Wendy has people around her who are taking advantage of her. And I'm going to get that in a second. It's her manager, Will, and then some publicist lady. And the niece is like, you have people taking advantage of you, and they're taking money from you, and you need to stand up, and you need to be the strong woman that I know you could be. And Wendy's looking at her like this. Like, she wants her to stop talking, but she's like, and she just keeps going. And then she's like, I know you're my aunt, I've known you. And then when Wendy came back for a second, she's like, all right now, Alex, like, calm down, relax, because Alex was getting a little bit too heated. And they end the conversation because the niece was doing a lot, and it was given, and the Oscar goes too. And the producers are like, have you looked in the refrigerator? And she was like, no, I won't do it. I won't look. And the producer's like, there's no food in there. And she's just like, girl, go get your aunt some food. What you crying for? You just did all that, tried to chastise her. Go get that lady some food in her refrigerator. But that's the type of things. That's why you weren't chosen to be guardian, because you're waiting for a title. You should have already been doing those things. It was weird that, they were saying that if the manager wasn't there, if the publicist wasn't there, Wendy was home alone. Y'all know she's struggling mentally, because for a while she was out in Florida. I guess her family lives in Florida. She was out there with them, and they sent her back to New York. because she had to get the court stuff and the guardian stuff together. You know your aunt is struggling. So you don't need the man to make you guardian. I'm sure you have enough money to buy that lady groceries. And I'm sure you will be reimbursed just fine. You know, when I was doing for my grandfather, I wasn't like, oh, I need gas money. Oh, I need this, that, the third. I was just getting things done. I wasn't like, oh, I need money to pay. Not saying they were asking for money, but a court didn't have to tell me to do for him before they officially made me the person to do for him. You know what I'm saying? So I thought it was weird, like for the sister, the niece, even her son, like, why you Uber eat your mama no food? I know you have money to do that. So it was just weird. Why I know that, you know, he live in Florida, he's in school. Okay, I get it. He can't leave school to come check on his mom. But you don't have anybody in New York. I don't have no one in New York who can consistently send to look after this lady. Check in on her a few times a day. Spend time with her. Like, nobody? Even, whatever. People take care of their family differently. I'm not judging. But to say, when the judge sees that, you know, they're probably less likely to grant guardianship because you already could have been doing that you weren't. What came out, y'all, let me Google it. From the way that I understand it, and this is what I experienced myself, is that the courts really are in favor. And Wendy is in New York State. I'm in New York State. Same rules, same laws. The court really is in favor of a family member being guardian. I saw on a blog, and that's why I like to verify everything before I speak out about it. But I saw on a blog that the judge, this particular judge, has a history of ruling against the family and putting in place a court appointed guardian. I'm looking right now on Google. I can't find anything that says that, so I'm not going to run with it. But if that's true, that is very interesting. Again, I'm looking at the major news outlets and I don't see anything. So if they're not reporting that, then I'm not going to run with that story. But I did see that on the blog. But again, we don't go by blogs. We go by reputable publications. So I just put in Wendy Williams judge. The Hollywood Reporter didn't write anything. The Times, the Journal, People Magazine, all these places are coming up. But I don't see anything about that. So we're just going to leave that in there. But yeah, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Whoever her publicist is, she's no longer her publicist now currently, but she was definitely taking advantage of her. There's a scene where Wendy is very excited about going to LA because she's going to have a meeting with Universal about having a new show. The publicist whisks her away to LA, and without knowledge of the manager, whose name is Will, who used to be her jeweler and who says that he met her through the club scene. Not club scene to jeweler to manager after her husband stopped being her manager, but I digress. And he says how you shouldn't leave and take her. The publicist, I think her name is Sean or something. She's like, oh, you know, Wendy wants to go have this meeting in LA. It's weird for you to travel without your manager, just your publicist. But there's a scene where she's asking her, oh, Wendy, do you want to go to the Oscars? God bless Wendy's heart. She's like, what are the Oscars? That's how out of it she is. And she's like, it's an award show. Do you want to go? We'll probably have to go shopping to get you something to wear. And Wendy's like, because Wendy wants to be back on TV. And she talks about that. But God doesn't like ugly. Because when you watch the documentary, all you can see is that lady's leave out. All on the back. All back here. Not even in the front where, like, you know, you're supposed to see a little leave out. All back here, all you see is leave out. It's like, and then, so, because God don't like ugly. Because you don't mean well by that lady. Why are you asking the lady, do you want to go to the Oscars? And she don't even know what day it is. And giving her cocktails when you know she's not supposed to be drinking. I digress. Very tragic, very sad story. But I think it's a good lesson for people to learn and watch to see. I mean, 59 again is very young, but you have to have your money in place. The judge was able to seize all of her money, and now it's all in possession of the guardian. You have to put down on your, when you go to the doctor, who your emergency person is. If you have a 401k, any type of life insurance policy, you need to put down who you want to be able to access those funds. All of these things need to be written and documented. So God forbid if there's an accident, if you can't make the choice for yourself, there's documentation that says, I want this person to be in this position. She's apparently now in a treatment facility. I really do hope that she is getting better, because we love Wendy. We would love for her to do a podcast. It's what we need and what we expect from her. It's just a terrible thing. If y'all didn't learn anything from this story, take your mental health seriously. I even evaluated my drinking after this. I'm not even going to lie. I'm like, oop, nope. I had a cocktail yesterday. Won't be having one today. Because it's just, know that alcohol played a part in this. And we know that Wendy used to be a big drug user back in the 90s. But to know that alcohol played a part in this is just devastating. So we hope that she gets better soon. In Alabama news, the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that embryos, including those kept outside of the uterus, are children under the state's wrongful death of a minor act. So essentially, some folks had some embryos over in Alabama. They were damaged, and the folks sued and said that you guys killed my kids. What does this mean for us? Now, these clinics all across the country are scrambling and trying to figure out what this ruling means for the rest of the frozen embryos. Because it's in, first of all, let's back up. I get these people won their case, and I understand for them, because if you're already having fertility issues, creating an embryo could be a challenge. It is a challenge. That's why, you know, we have these clinics. But to rule them as children is extremely excessive. There's so many people who take advantage of in vitro every single year. And now folks are just afraid of what the future holds and what that could look like, especially in a country where we're dealing with abortion bans, and when women's reproductive systems are now being put under a microscope more now than ever. It's just so much. So much. I'm not sure what this court case means for us exactly. It looks like there are over 1 million frozen eggs and embryos stored across the United States. I'm going to keep watching this case and update you guys some more. But ruling that embryos are children is crazy. Because someone put on social media, well, we know that if you store a baby in a freezer, it will perish. Embryos are not a baby. So therefore, if you put those in the freezer, the fact that they're able to keep proves that they aren't children. Yeah. So I'm going to keep following the story and let you guys know what this means for us. So I talked about this on TikTok, about how I really feel like Jess Hilarious is bringing down the Breakfast Club, y'all. And this is not coming from a hater. This is really coming from a stance of, I just want us to do better. Ever since Jess has come on the Breakfast Club, there's been some scandal that has to do with Black women. So this week, you know, the cast was talking about Risa Tisa, who we're going to get into. We're going to get into Risa Tisa, the 50-part Who the F Did I Marry series that she posted on TikTok, detailing about how she dated, became engaged, got married to, and divorced a pathological liar, and all of the trials and tribulations that man put my girl Risa Tisa through. He dragged her. Legion, who now allegedly is going to have a series on Netflix. This child done photoshopped himself at the Netflix headquarters. But Jess Hilarious is reporting on the story, and she was telling Charlamagne, she was like telling the story to Charlamagne and Envy. And the reason that she's bringing it down is because I think there was a moment where we know, again, when the Breakfast Club started, it was a hot ghetto trash mess. But again, it was the early 2010s. We all kind of were at that time. I think we all kind of grew up with that show. And as it's gone on, it's just gotten better as far as how they dissect politics, how they just bring on, I think, when it comes to diet and herbalists, and I think they do offer a lot of really good information. But now that Jess Hilarious is on the show, I feel like they've been kind of reverting back to their old ways. So when Jess reported the story about Mia Culpa. When Jess Hilarious reported the story and Charlamagne was like, I think this is giving big back energy. He hadn't even seen Risa, but just from her, I don't know why I just did that, y'all. Just from her telling this story, he was like, oh, she sounds like she's probably a big back, basically saying that she's overweight. And it was just so, and Jess was, yeah, and co-signing it and laughing along. And one thing about Angela Yee is she was a little shady, and sometimes she did have shady moments when she did not stand up for women, but it was clear that she stood up for women more times than she did not. And Jess, I don't know who she stands up for. She definitely comes into that show with her masculine energy. She doesn't stand up for women. She doesn't support women on the show. She always kind of uses black women as her punching bag, because a couple of weeks ago she was calling black women bitter black bees. So she has a thing against the trans community. She's made comments against them. Even in this same episode or the next day, she comes for T.S. Madison. It's just like, I don't know what her vendetta is against black women, but it's very obvious and very strange. What Risa Tisa did was brilliant. For her to open up so honestly and earnestly on TikTok and give us that series, it was so detailed, and she is a phenomenal storyteller. I'm a journalist. I tell stories for a living, but even I was over here taking notes because she was just so good and precise and detailed, and it was easy to follow her. Oh, it was just so good. And for her to get on there and say openly, hey, I made a mistake. I ignored red flags to this man. She said something that like broke my heart. She said, I thought it was my turn. I see all these beautiful black families and women who are married with their husband and having children, and I just thought it was my turn. So I overlooked some things because I wanted that fairy tale. And I think almost any woman could identify with that. We've all been in a relationship, a situationship, a marriage, or something where we overlooked red flags, where we allowed someone to disrespect us to a certain degree just because we wanted to stay in that relationship. And for her to open up and be vulnerable and for her to be candid about that, there's no room for laughter. Only someone who is deeply insecure, deeply hurt, and deeply wounded would think that that is an opportunity to laugh and poke fun at another person when they're bringing themselves to you raw. It was just disgusting, immature, and annoying, to say the absolute least. Especially from Charlamagne, because for him to say, oh, she was desperate, so that's why she went through all that, and ladies, you need to stop being so desperate for a man, and that's what's wrong with y'all, and y'all giving big back energy when y'all acting like y'all need a man so bad. And it's interesting because Charlamagne used to give Angela Yee a lot of heat for being single. So it's like, and it just goes back to that meme I always see on social media. It's like, if you're in a relationship, it's not good enough. If you're not in a relationship, it's not good enough. If you're married, it's not good enough. It just doesn't matter. Women are going to just be critiqued to the very end. It does not matter. And Charlamagne literally proved his point with that clip. And I think what was also crazy to me too was his audacity. How dare you openly condemn this woman when you've spoken so much about your wife and how you used to cheat on her and you were other type of women, and how when you didn't have any money, she held it down for you, and you had too much pride to even go to the court when y'all were getting evicted. And that woman had to go and do the job of a man and go to court, and she had your children. So was she giving desperate energy? Was she a big back? I really want to know. His mom, he always talks about how his mom, how his dad would cheat on his mom real bad, and it made him feel the way about his dad. Was your mom giving big back desperate energy when she stayed with your dad through all those trials and tribulations? I'm just saying how quickly we forget. The same thing with Jess Hilarious, the way that she thought that she was going to be special, being with Country Wayne, and he got 57 million kids and 57 baby mamas. She thought she was going to get special. She was special until she got played. Allegedly, he took the house back that he bought her I don't know. It was real messy. Was Jess giving desperate big back energy? I don't know. I just feel like we're in a season where if we're not going to uplift each other, you don't even have to uplift her. Just don't be so cowardly and so ignorant as to drag someone when they're being open and honest, especially somebody whose history you don't know. How quick we are to judge someone who was beautiful enough to share their story that so many men and women can relate to. Reesa Teesa deserves all the good things and the blessings. I really hope that the Breakfast Club gets it together. I don't watch it anyway because it's just not aligned with my spirit anymore. But I do like when they do the interviews with like the herbalists and things like that are beneficial and that can help me become a better person. But if this is the content that they're going to give out, again, I already kind of stopped watching, but now there's no hope because that was just disappointing. And just, what's the point of having a woman there if she's going to exert her male energy and if she's not going to be supportive of women? There's literally no point. A lot of outlets, news outlets, and important people think that the Breakfast Club represents Black people. It doesn't. The Breakfast Club does not represent Black people and how we feel, and Jess Hilarious does not represent Black women, especially this one over here, because the bitterness, the anger, the projection, it's loud and clear. Next week, I'm going to unpack all the things Obama did for America, for Black America specifically, because y'all love to say that Obama did nothing for Black people. I'm going to unpack next week all the things that Obama did do for Black people. And then I'm going to unpack all of the ways that Trump undid all of the things that Obama did to help Black people specifically. I think I'm going to make it into a 2-part show. The first one is going to be next week is going to be about all the things that Obama did for Black people. And the second follow-up episode is going to be about all the ways that Trump tried to unpack everything that Obama did that would have worked in our favor. I don't think a lot of people know because I'm very nervous about this upcoming election. I don't know how y'all are letting Trump slide his greasy self back into politics. He's being sued for, it's probably billions at this point. I know it's in the millions, for billions at this point. The lawsuits are ridiculous. The settlements are ridiculous. I don't understand how someone who's been indicted so many times can run for president, but welcome to America. I'm actually going to start doing something new. At the end of every single episode, I am going to put, you'll see. Just watch the end of the episode. Next up, I have an interview with somebody. I'm very excited. My first interview this year with my homegirls tonight. Y'all are probably like, why are you interviewing your friend? That's corny. Okay, I get it, but stay with me. I'm interviewing tonight about all of the why, who, what, when, and where's of the Reesa Teesa debacle. The reason I'm interviewing tonight specifically is because she has been in a successful, healthy, and beautiful marriage for, I don't know, I feel like she's been married for about 5 years now to this amazing man who I met, who could cook his ass off. We love him. He's so down to earth. And they met online. They met on a dating app. So I wanted to bring her on to, one, give us some green flags and red flags to look for when dating on a dating app, and just some dating tips in general, because I feel like since so many of us have not necessarily been in a recent situation, but have been in it could have been us, or have stayed for far too long, or who have missed the blatant red signs of dating. So Night and I are going to talk about it. I'm so excited. And without further ado, here's my homegirl tonight. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm so happy to talk to you. I'm so happy to talk to you. You know, we've been kikiing in our messages. So I was like, let me bring you to the people, because the people need to hear these opinions. Because, you know, y'all, tonight looks so innocent and sweet, and she is. but child, that mouth.
Okay, thank you. I'm
This is
on
my
the
friend.
show.
This is my friends tonight, you guys. I wanted to bring her on because, like I said, we've been talking about this as everybody else has, as all the women of America have at this point, about Risa Teese and all the drama. Tonight's a married woman. She met her person on a dating app. So I'm like, you know what? She would be perfect because I feel like if this any of this happened to her, she would have like stopped Legion in his tracks eons ago.
Mhm. Yes, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm so excited. Okay, so we're gonna jump right in. We know the story, 50-part series. Risa Tista, my girl, ended up with a pathological lie that she met on a Facebook dating app, which for me, as someone who has embarrassingly been on there, that was the first red flag because there's nothing on there with scams and scammers.
I didn't know you were on there.
Child. So it happened randomly. I was actually just on Facebook and then I got the ad for it. I didn't even know it was a thing. This is like a few years ago. I got the ad for it. Like I was just scrolling on Facebook and then like all these folks started popping up. I'm like, oh, what's this? So that's how I even found out about it. Like maybe about 3 years ago now. I didn't even realize I didn't know about it. I hadn't heard people talking about it. Did you know about it?
No, I'm really far removed from the dating app world. There's a whole bunch of apps now. Anything is a dating app if you try hard enough. Twitter, the
Back,
DMs, you
facts.
know, anything.
Sliding up all in the DMs. No, for sure. But I think that Facebook specifically is like there was nothing on there with scammers. One guy, we were going to actually have a FaceTime and he was like, oh, I was like, he's like, oh yeah, let's FaceTime. I'm like, yeah, no, because I want to like see who I'm talking to. He sends me a photo of his like slong after 20 minutes.
Wow.
He was like, I just wanted you to see like what I was working with, and I just like never responded because it's like, why would you do that?
Mm-mm. No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, how hard? Like it was just unprovoked. No one requested that. It was literally in the hi, how are you stages, and yeah. So I just think that's just like. And then my cousin met some folks on there. My cousin actually went on a date with a guy that she met on there. They went on one date, and then like maybe the next week he stopped. He ghosted her, and then she saw on Facebook he had got married.
Did she message the wife?
I wanted her to, and we found her on Facebook, but she didn't do it. She
And
like So we think that was like his last hurrah before he got married to the lady.
that's the I'm coming to you as a woman. That's when you come in with that line.
He told her that he was going to his sister's wedding the following week, but it happened to be his. So I just have a different, I just feel like
Mm,
the Facebook dating one is like a whole different
yeah.
mean monster. But as someone that has a positive outcome, what with Risa Tisa, she met him on there, they went on a date, blah blah blah. Like what would have like what am I trying to say? What would have been the first red flag for you?
I think for her, she ignored the red flags because she wanted to.
Yeah.
It's like a two-part thing. It's, as she said, being desperate is dangerous, and then it's the audacity of men. So those are the kind of two things. I think when you go into the dating world, you need to know yourself and you need to be confident. And it's not just that when you're desperate, you're going to do dangerous things. And so, for example, you need to have money. If the date is getting weird, you need to have enough money to get an Uber to get out of there. You need to
Yes.
have at least one person you can share your location with. So, off jump, the date needs to be a normal first date. I'm okay with coffee dates. I know this is controversial, but a lot of people think that's like a poor cheap date. I like it because it allows me to date in the daytime. So that's not a red flag for me.
Right.
But firstly, I'd want to meet them in person, obviously. I think the first red flag is if they pay or they don't pay and how they pay. If they pull out a wad of cash with a rubber band, it's a little suspicious. What are you doing for work? If they open up their credit card, their wallet, and they have more than 6 credit cards, it's another kind of red flag. Like, what do we got going on here? Does the job you do make sense for the way you manage your finances. I
Yeah.
have seen people do that in bars, pull out a wad of cash with a rubber band. That's why I mentioned that.
Right. Yeah, that's the
Just
thing.
off jump, there's already that. And then later, the more you get to know them, then you get access to their house. And this is the most important place to do all your investigative work is in their house.
Because you're a snooper.
Yeah. Yeah. I will open every drawer if I can. I will go through the closet. The mail. I would never open mail to be clear. But if you're getting letters from weird people, if you're getting letters from other women, if you're getting some mail from jail or court or anything that expose you for who you are, that's it. Or, if you go in their closet and you see some women's clothes, is it their sister's clothes? Is it their mom's clothes? Or is it like lingerie? You need to
Right.
be smart and just protect yourself because men are always going to have the audacity. And so you need to protect your mental health by doing these things. I'm not saying it's like a trust issue thing. I'm
Right.
just saying men have the audacity. And if there's anything you can do to protect yourself, you should.
Yeah. No, for sure. I was actually just looking at a study and it said that men are more likely than women to lie for like personal gain in relationships.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I mean, I guess I could have guessed that.
I kind of already figured it, but I
Yeah.
think the science behind it, and it was a real study. It was featured on Psychology Today, and like it was done by Science Direct. I'll try to like link it up here, but it was like a real study saying that men are more likely to lie in relationships, specifically if for personal interest. So like, wow, that puts a lot of perspective.
And this is the same, men could do the same for women. If you go to a woman's house and she's like telling you one thing and the home is giving another story, you can look around, context clues, you can ask questions. They've invited you there. And if there's something awry, you should ask. If there's like someone's punched a hole in the wall and they're like, oh, we were just moving furniture, but it looks like someone's punching, you can say, what is this? You should
Right,
look. Yeah.
right. How do you feel? Okay, so we know Risa. A lot of people are saying, I'm not sure if you're like religious, but some folks were saying like the first sign was God when her tire busted. It was God saying like, "Girl, you don't need to go on this date." Like, what was that first like red flag for you? Like when she was telling her story, that you were like, "Oh nah, something's going on here."
The The holding hands was a little bit weird. I'm not against it, but I think holding hands into the restaurant is a little weird, or out of it. I'm not sure when they were holding
Right.
hands. And then the music in the car was a little bit odd, where he was playing that. I think it was a John Legend song or something or other.
Yeah.
It was a little much. She even goes back and says in her like Q&A recap, she was saying that it was a little much. It was a little heavy that he was doing all that up front.
Right.
Hmm.
From the beginning, right? And because and like I don't, I'm not a naive person, but I'm
Hmm.
definitely very much like,
Go with the flow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not going with the flow, yeah, but not so much like I'm not gonna let you like flow me over a cliff. But
Mhm.
I'm a little bit more reserved because I feel like things are gonna come out naturally anyway. But I
Mhm.
do appreciate the proactiveness of looking into things because I think that's how she was. She was kind of like just letting things unfold naturally. When we could have really sped this process up before we even got to the altar. And was it just me, or did she not talk about the wedding, or was there a
There
wedding?
was no wedding. No, no,
Right?
no. Because they went from dating to moving in with each other in a matter of months, which was red flag already. I understand with COVID, it was a hard time for a lot of people, but you guys can quarantine separate. You guys can meet up
Right.
in the park with the social distance the way the rest of us did. He didn't need to move in there.
No,
No.
no. And we were talking, and you were like, yeah, the Dickies outfit. Okay, for me, hear me out. Him being VP and wearing and wearing chill clothes to work. In New York, I remember specifically, I went to Tulum, met a guy, and he was like, "Oh, I'm the VP." He was like on our trip. He wasn't like someone I was like interested in. He's like, "Oh, I'm the VP at like Chase for something, something. The VP of, I don't know, let's say marketing." maybe the VP of marketing something in another department. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And he's the one that told me, he was like, no, don't be fooled by this whole VP thing. Like you could be the VP of like janitorial services. Like they just throw these titles around. So that's why when I heard the title VP, I wasn't like, and then one of my friends just got a new job to the marketing company. Literally, it's a small company. Almost every other person tonight is a VP of something. VP of social media operations, VP of.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I was just like, okay, maybe he's the VP of the floor. But you were like, absolutely not.
I don't know what he was VP of like operations, but he had to go down to the manufacturing floor, production floor. And she said
Right.
that's why he wore that. But I don't think you would leave home in that outfit and then go to where food was being handled unless he was putting on that like protective gear.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was fishy. And she admits that she should have known. And, she was coming from a broken place when she was lonely, she was
Yeah.
lonely,
Of
and that's
course.
that's how she got there. But there was a moving in together, the quickie
Yeah.
wedding, the shit proposal,
Yeah.
um, and the wedding was just a courthouse. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if
Right.
the proposal was not meaningful, then the house stuff, that process, which I've gone through as well, and the way that she should have asked a lot of questions. She should have done a lot of Googling to figure out that process, especially if she wanted her name on the title to show
Right.
that home together. I don't know. He loves a printer. If he was printing all the stuff, didn't show her any emails and anything. And there was a lot of stuff a lot of conversations they should have had before they got married. And they didn't. And she didn't ask. And
Right.
so she didn't set a boundary. She didn't ask questions. She didn't really want to, I guess. And he
Right.
was going to lie his way out of it anyway.
The ability to like lie and I don't, it gives me the creeps that she was sleeping next to somebody like that. Like, it's come out now that I think he has allegedly schizophrenia and I think bipolar. It's just I saw somebody online, they were like, well, hell is empty because everyone's up here. And that's kind of what it's giving. Like
Wow.
that's kind of what it's giving. Like I don't even know what it would have been like to sleep next to somebody like that. Like, I feel like I would have felt the vibes a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think she did feel something was off because why was she doing voice notes the whole relationship? She knew something was off and she needed to record this in some way.
Right.
And going and then she said that she had recorded it and then later she says in like a Q&A she had sent it to like a very close friend in case something happened to her. I've
Right.
never felt the need to leave almost a verbal diary in case something happens to me because
Right.
of my partner. So the fact that she had to do that and was doing it for so long, she knew in her gut something was off. If you don't, she should have trusted her gut intuition. It was talking to her, but the
It
desperation
was.
forced its way through.
I feel like we're taught to not really trust that sometimes. We're taught to just like, even as I grow and I'm going through like my journeys, I'm like, oh, that feeling that you get when someone says something to you or when someone does something to you, that's like a real thing you have to pay attention to. Is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like now learning that at my big age of 34 in real time. I think I was kind of conditioned to ignore it a little bit.
I mean, maybe, people could say, oh, you're being paranoid. Don't worry about it. You're making stuff up. It's all in your head. Maybe
Yes.
you've been gaslit enough to the point where
Yes.
you don't want to trust your gut because you're being told you know, it's not real.
What do you think surprised you the most? Like out of everything, what like was like, oh hell no.
The home stuff, just because I've gone through that process.
Yeah.
When I got married, I logged into my Credit Karma. They logged into theirs. We switched screens. We like logged into each other's accounts, like and swapped computers, dug through everything we wanted to dig through, knew where everything was, all the numbers, all the stuff. And then we're like, okay, great. Now, where do we go from here? What are our goals? What do we want to achieve? Way before we ever signed anything to see if
Right.
we were on the same page. So if she had done that, she would have seen his credit score, and things like that. You need a certain score to get a home, and then also for all of these offshore accounts and all these accounts. If she was like, okay, log in, I want to see what we can afford. I want to know if I can take 6 months off maternity leave later. I want to know what you have
Right.
to show me, not the like screenshot, which is what he did. No, you need to log in. You need to hand me the computer so then I can kind of maneuver it. I'm not saying you have to share passwords. Some people do, some people don't. But,
Right.
you know, he was printing stuff and she was going along with it. Like the pre-approval letter, it takes a lot of work to get that. You have to submit an extremely large amount of paperwork to get that. She could
Right.
have been CC'd on those emails,
Right.
you know, between him and the bank. If it was real, it would have taken a really long time to collect that paperwork.
So on Credit Karma, if those alleged offshore bank accounts, those would have been on there.
No, I don't think so, but it would have
Oh.
shown all of his outstanding debts,
Mm.
like whether it was a student loan, whether it was a credit card, all the credit cards that he had, if he had any derogatory marks, if he had any unpaid or had done bankruptcy or anything like that, that type of stuff would show up there. So if he had, let's say, a 430 score, I'm not saying that he does, but if he did, she could have been like, oh, okay, let's talk about how we got here. Like it could
Right.
have,
Right.
yeah.
What do you think about like family and friends? How involved do you think that? How much of that information do you feel comfortable, or would you have delved out to your family and your friends? Because she was saying like, I'm religious, and or I don't think that was about religion. I thought it was about tradition, like in the Black household. It's like what happened here, stay here. Like, do you subscribe to that? Would you subscribe to that, or how did you feel about that part?
Well, I think everyone has to have, you know, a good friend or family member they can talk to, but she didn't want to end it, so she didn't tell them. She purposely never told them the truth because she knew they would advocate for her and step in. So she was like, let me not tell them because they're going to come up in here and, you know, drag her out probably, to be honest. So she wasn't telling the truth, but you know, she should have met a lot of these, all the names and all the characters, real or not, all the fake phone calls that were not on speakerphone, all of those people she should have met ideally before getting married. Like she should have met at least 3 family members in person, and then like 2 to 3 good friends, you know, going out to dinner. She says they were going out to dinner and he was taking her out on dates.
Right.
I'm assuming this was during like right after lockdown, so
Right.
invite a friend. Okay, now, you know, that would have been a great way to hang out. She met no one. There was no vetting or nothing because she just
No.
wasn't in the mindset.
Uh, she just wanted to, felt the pressures of. I don't know how old she is. I think she's probably in her 30s. Like I
Hmm.
think she just felt that pressure of just being in your 30s, and people are like, you have to get married. Like, where are the kids? Where's the marriage? And just like fell into it. I feel like it could have happened to anybody at some level.
Also, I'm that friend who will say, hey, look, I fucking hate your boyfriend. I'm sorry. I don't like the way he talks to you. I don't like the way he talked to the waiter. I'm that person who will say that I don't care, but I have to like collect enough information for me to feel comfortable to have that conversation. I need to see how he is with you. I need to see how he is with other people before I really make a stand on it. I will
Yeah.
not sugarcoat it. I will just kind of let my friends know, um, that, and if they're, you know, if the relationships I have, they're good, they'll understand. I'm not coming from a place of jealousy. That's not what
Right.
it is. It's
Of
true
course.
behavior, and I want to make sure they know. You know, maybe if she had had these dinners, you know, she said that he was really good at the performance. Her friends might not have noticed, or maybe they would have.
Yeah.
You know, when you hate someone, you don't know why you hate them, and you're
Yeah.
like, I hate this person. You can't put your finger on it, but something in your stomach is like, no, 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 I don't want to be around them. That's what she needed to, you know?
He seems so braggadocious, and for me that's an immediate red flag and turn off. Like when men only, like when you're talking to a guy, I'm sure you, before you were married, like you've experienced a guy that just like talks about himself the entire time or about his
Mhm.
accomplishments. I feel like that's the vibe he was giving, and that's the red flag for me, because that's like, is this the Legion show? Like, what are we doing?
And then to be like that and to have no proof, like you're so pressed over this arena football, but you don't have any images, you don't have any photos, you have no trophies, you have nothing from this time. The most important time, the thing you tell everybody about, but you have no proof of this period in your life, nothing on social media, nothing. Like, why didn't she Google, like, okay, let's see his arena football? Okay, I don't know about that. I want to support him. Let me look it up. She never
Yeah.
looked it up. If that's so important to him, take a little interest, look it up. I'm very curious and very nosy. I would have looked through it and found that like in probably right after the first date when he
Right.
had her.
No, like I feel like I've dated a guy that did arena football before. And I was just like, this. Like, I don't, first of all, like, I don't care. Like, why do you keep talking about it? It's like,
Okay.
I think I would have respected, like, what is it, like JUCO football? Like, when they do, like, I would have respected that more. Like, I don't care about arena football.
Let's Google him later after this. Let's see if it's real. Now I need to know. And now I just believe in you have to take care of yourself. You're the only
Yeah.
one who's gonna, you're your only priority in your life. So you really have to vet these guys.
No, you have to. And after I saw that stat that, and you know, to be completely fair, this is not a male bashing session, but that's what the study said. And it also said that, obviously women lie too. It's not like just a
Of
one-sided thing,
course.
but
Of
to
course.
know that men are more likely to do it specifically for their personal gain, it kind of just like, it made me a little bit more suspicious.
Hmm. But also in society, like if a man is good looking and he's a cashier, a woman might be like, he doesn't have a good job. But if a woman is really beautiful, she's a cashier, a man might overlook that because
Absolutely.
he doesn't need her to be this top performing breadwinner anyway. Some men anyway.
Right.
So that could also have been part of it. That need to like show off.
It was the him lying in the guest room and with his foot up because his foot was damaged or whatever happened with his foot. Oh, the knee. It was the knee.
Mhm.
Messaging, alleged, and soliciting like prostitutes for me. It was like, excuse me.
I think he was calling them. I think he was because the phone calls they were either imaginary phone calls he was having with his sister or whatever, or
Right.
he was just like because what are the girls doing during the day? Maybe the day shift is slow for them, and maybe he was having that morning call with one of the girls.
But I also
That
was like, how do you not hear him on the phone with somebody? Like how you would have to hear that.
listen, I think it's insane to have 3 hours of phone calls a day and only one of them was real. I think he finding that out. I think that's why she couldn't sleep, and why she was like freaking out and doing the voice recordings when she kind of put it all together.
Yeah, because even if you're on the phone with someone, like you didn't see that light, and when that light came on, and you saw it was like his screensaver. Like it was just, I just had so many questions. Or like how he wasn't. Because I talk to people. I'm that person that like is at the store on speakerphone. I know. I'm sorry. I'll change one day. I
Speaker.
know. I
Oh
know.
my god, we're gonna talk about that one later.
It's ghetto. I know. I'll keep the volume down though. It's not loud, but I'm that girl. So how don't you know who he's talking to?
If he's talking to someone all the time and they're that important in their life, why haven't you guys FaceTime together? Why haven't you met?
Right. Right. These are the questions I want to know. And like for me, like I love that she did this series, but aside from that, like calling him my ex-husband, absolutely not. Like aside from this series and whatever great things will emerge from it, I would want no ties. Like I'm just creeped out. Like it's really giving demon in the flesh. Like it's really the amount of lying, it just makes me cringe. Like even thinking about it. Like I wouldn't even want to be in that person's presence. Like the diabolicalness, it's not even a word, of his mind is like next level.
Mm-hmm. And like, what was the reason? Like, what was the reason? Like, when they went to 20 houses and they went to all these different dealerships and all of that for what? On the cars getting delivered. Oh, it's supposed to be there by 3. Oh, it didn't get delivered by 3. Why? Like, she had to have known,
Tonight.
before she let on that she knew that that was not going to happen. Like, come on. Like,
Could you imagine coming home from work to wait for a car that never arrived?
no, because I would not be in that situation. I would have burned his car down, probably. I would have set it on fire. I don't know. But I can't stand a liar because then I can't trust you. And if there's no
Right.
trust, there's nothing.
There's
So
nothing.
I don't know how she pulled it together.
That's my biggest pet peeve too. And I just feel like for him and for a lot of men that are liars like this and that say these grandiose things and say these grandiose things, if you just put that much effort into being a good person, into having a career, you would really be spectacular because I think it takes a level of skill. I couldn't keep up with that many lies. I wouldn't be able to sleep. My stomach would be in knots. I have anxiety just walking around. So I couldn't imagine actually having anxiety for something that you should actually be anxious about, you know?
Mhm.
Like someone catching up to your lies.
The the stress it caused her, I think, brought her joy, and I think that's what's so nasty about the whole situation. Like him just thinking, like he knew that car wasn't going to show up at 3 or whatever time it was, and
Yeah.
he probably, knowing she was all excited, I think that brought him joy. Like it was sick, like really
Yeah.
cruel and hurtful what he did.
Do you think, like, we're not psychologists here, but do you think is it giving, like, I feel like the word narcissist is so overused, but
Mhm.
is it giving, and I like the fact that she said pathological liar. She didn't consistently say narcissist, 'cause that's just like so such low hanging fruit.
Mhm.
But I just feel like, you have these glasses on. So I just feel like you should just diagnose with something. I feel like I would
Thank
trust
you.
your I would trust
Doctorate. Yeah,
yes, I would
that I
trust
have.
your expertise. Like what? Is it pathological liar? Is it narcissist? Like,
I know someone who lies a lot.
yeah.
I no longer associate with this person, but she lied a lot. Lied about her education, lied about people she knew. She just wanted to feel important, and she
Yeah.
wanted people to gravitate to her based off what she could provide, what she could do, who she knew. Because
Right.
she wanted people to think like, oh well, she's really well connected. I want to know her. So she would constantly lie, and she would sometimes be in positions where she needed to act on one of her lies. And for a while, she was able to kind of finesse it and make it happen
Yeah.
and do small favors for people. But I don't know. Um, I think it comes from a dark place, maybe shame or something like that. Like when she talks about in her Q&A, she talks about how his family said as a kid he had a lot of imaginary friends,
Mm,
and how did they let this behavior go unchecked because he owed a lot of family members money and had
right.
kind of burned a lot of bridges, and why did they kind of let him live his whole life without checking him?
Right.
Because there would have been a moment when he was younger where he could have, like, maybe he needed some attention or whatever it was. It kind of just, I don't know. So she thinks it's something from his childhood. I agree. I think some things
Same.
probably happened to him.
Same.
And then also he probably has some kind of mental illness, because it's just like faking hours of phone calls every week. That's
I'm
not normal.
exhausted.
That's not
I'm
normal.
exhausted thinking about it.
The phone bill, wonder if she had seen the phone bill and saw how short it was. Like that could have ended it too really quickly.
Yeah, I agree that it was something totally from his childhood. With my 4-year degree in forensic psychology, I'll just take a stab at this diagnosis. But I think as a twin, and I actually think I have a family member that's like this. I think something very traumatic happened to him in his childhood. And I know that twins are competitive, and I don't have siblings, but apparently that can get competitive because, fighting for
Mhm.
attention, whatever. And I think that something happened to him in his childhood and he lied about it and he got away with it. And once he realized he can get away with things by lying, I think it just kept building, 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 building. And I think that it's scary. And that's why I said I couldn't imagine being in the same room as him because there's no longer a separation between reality and what's in your head. It's
Mhm.
like all merged together.
Well, they were only together, I mean, I don't know, maybe a year or so. So he had to keep it up for about a year. Yeah, it's a while.
And I think that once they broke up, and then the $6 for chicken nuggets is crazy. I don't know why when she
She's
said
a good person. That's why.
that was crazy, but I think that who she saw, I think that's the real him. The
Living in a car.
sickly, living in a car, lost all the weight because I think that she was giving him his supply or whatever he needed to. I think he needed to do and say those things to be that version of himself in his head. And then when that subsided, that's who he really was, that shell that was left.
I think so. Because if he didn't have the job, he can't really provide anymore.
Right.
And that was part of how he kept it going. Because
Yeah.
that's what she was getting in exchange. Because this is a very transactional relationship.
Yeah.
And him paying was part of like, of course I got money. I've been paying for this house for a year. And that's the one real tangible thing she was getting.
Right.
So once that's done.
But that Atlanta rent is like nothing like that New York rent. Because $1,000, and she lived in a whole townhouse in a 3-bedroom, 2.5 baths. Child, I would have. No, I don't need to like mooch in there. But I'm just saying, I get he was coming from a little studio or from his car. I get why he had to. They call them hobosexuals. Hobosexuals. Yeah.
But he could have, if he was paying her rent, he could have afforded that for himself. So that didn't make sense to me either. Because he took on that and he took on her car payment also,
Right.
which would have been more than his studio rent. So then that didn't even make sense to me. I think he got kicked out of somewhere else and was like, I need a quick little place, and ended up in that studio until he found her and was like, now this is my next,
Yeah.
victim, yes.
Because for him, it's like, oh, I can't manipulate anybody in this small studio. I'm bored.
Maybe actually, because if you're so high up, why would you be in a studio? And that goes back to the house thing.
Right.
Looking for the house. I'm looking to buy a house. Okay, then buy it.
Then buy it. Just do it. And stop
Yeah.
walking around with that letter in your pocket.
750 K, you have to make probably over 200,000 a year to be able to qualify you.
You don't think the
I,
VP of floor operations that would have covered that?
well, he was regional manager, and then he became the
Oh,
VP, and then got David and all that stuff. So
right.
I don't know. All like this is like, and luckily she was saving money this whole time, and that's how she was able to get out and
Yeah.
move away. She not had saved money. Like, you really need money to date, because you can't get out of the situation, even if it's a hotel for a night, an Uber or whatever. If you don't have it, you're stuck with that man all night. You're not
Right.
getting out. So luckily she was able to just move to a new town, pay security deposit, first month's rent, and get out.
Are you familiar with the sprinkle sprinkle movement?
I'm familiar with Shira.
Yeah.
What's her name? Yes,
Cheers, Bennett.
I've seen her videos. She's very, very funny. She's very, very funny. Some of what she says is very accurate.
Hold on, don't tell us too much because we have
Okay.
6 minutes left, and that's how I'm gonna hook you in and bring you back on again. Because you talk about the sprinkle sprinkle thing. Because I have thoughts. Okay, final. After 6 minutes left, so just your final thoughts on like dating on the app before you even connect with someone. I know you said you're cool with coffee dates once it gets past that, but on those like initial steps of being on the app and swiping, like what are you looking at? Like what are some red flags and what are some green flags?
If you're talking about anything, obviously anything very overtly sexual in the beginning. If you say you want to meet on a Saturday and we confirm for Saturday and you last minute cancel, you show up more than 15 minutes late. You don't text like, did you get home okay? Or anything like that. They go to your home and don't respect your home, acting up, whatever. Or you go to their home and you see some things, you see, as I was telling you before, you see a little someone else's weave around her ponytail and you're like, why did you save this?
What is
I would say
not
filter.
what does them not respecting your home look like? That was a good point.
Leaving dishes out. You
Yeah.
take a shower and they just leave their clothes on the floor,
Yeah.
leave the dirty clothes there. If you're like, hey, I've got a roommate, this is the rules XYZ, can you please keep it down? And they're just being loud.
Yeah.
Just like no home training, like just basic stuff that you wouldn't do.
Right.
Because then you're like, who raised you? Then it gets you really thinking like, I'm gonna have to train this man, and I'm not interested in doing that.
What about the green flags? Like what's like, okay, this might could be something here.
Hmm. If he wanted to, he would. So with my husband, on our first date, he planned our second date. On our second date, he planned our third date. So I didn't go home wondering like, is this person gonna call me? He was like, no, this is what we're gonna do. I'd like
Right.
to go here. If you want to go somewhere else, let me know. And it was very like straightforward. So green
Yeah.
flag, follow up. Don't text me a week later, because that lets me know what were you doing during that week. I don't have a
Right.
week. Just wait around for you.
Right.
Um, you know, there is no like, oh, I have to wait a day to text you. We don't do that. If you want to text me, text me. If you don't want to talk to me, then you don't want to talk to me.
Right.
Like, I'm not waiting 3 weeks for a text. To the large gaps of time between the date and the next date, or the date and the phone call, I'm not doing that.
That's a red flag.
To me, it is, because you know how it's very specific to New York. She'll be with someone else in a week. He will be
Yeah.
with some other girl in a week as well.
Yeah.
A week, a Friday night, forget
Yeah.
it. No, they're gonna meet someone else.
Right.
No,
It's too much going on.
way too much.
Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Of course, of course.
I already got you on the hook. I figured out how I can get you back in another week.
Sprinkle, sprinkle.
Yes, I like your dating tips. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of The Keydra Show. Listen to Key. I'm your host, Keydra. I appreciate y'all so much for rocking with me for another episode. Please tune in next week. Enjoy y'all week. Love you guys. Peace. In 2022, more than 271,000 women were reported missing, and nearly 98,000 of those were Black women and girls. Black women make up only 7% of the U.S. population, yet account for 18% of those reported missing. Please take a look at the young woman on the screen and the details and help us bring this girl home.